Critique of high tax wealth tax. So, if you're living in the United Kingdom, you will almost certainly be taxed till your eyes pop out. High taxation is not just unique to the United Kingdom, as other nations and states also have ridiculously high tax. My understanding of tax is that the government of a nation needs to collect a certain amount from the inhabitants to then redistribute it to services and infrastructure that the nation or state will need as a whole, such as transport infrastructure, emergency services, disaster relief if you're living in an area prone to natural disasters, energy production, and so on. However, these services only work when the money collected by the government as tax is redistributed to these specific areas and not sent to a foreign nation whose interests do not align with ours. I can name a few areas from the top of my head, mainly in the United States, where taxation is so diabolical that even when the person and or business leaves that state, they are still required to pay tax to an area they no longer live and work in. My main argument will require context before I ask a simple question. My dad started his own business in the back of a shed. I remember as a kid how the business grew and relocated from the shed to an actual factory and then from there to a larger factory. I think over a 40-year period, which is how long the business has lasted, or rather survived, it went from strength to strength, but mishaps stunted further growth. It could have easily been a multi-million pound company, and my dad would have then been yet another being forced to pay ridiculously high taxes for his own success. The question is this: why are we punishing people and businesses for being prosperous and successful? We need people and businesses to be successful and prosperous and not be penalized for it. So why is the United Kingdom hell bent on doing just that? All businesses, from manufacturers to service providers to content producers, will have started off in a shed or a kitchen or even someone's bedroom. Whether they become a multi-million pound success story is another question entirely. Asking businesses to pay for their own success is the crux of demoralization, and it's no wonder that people relocate to countries that are more lenient in regards to tax. I understand that higher taxes are the government's misdirected attempt at solving inflation, but inflation is the result of endless borrowing and endless printing of money. Higher minimum wages won't solve the cost of living crisis either, as the fundamental problem is that the pound has depreciated in value. It no longer has the same buying power it did in the 1990s or early 2000s. I remember the exchange rate being something like £1 is equivalent to $2.30, and the same for euro currency. I speculated on an unorthodox approach to the cost of living crisis by reducing national minimum wage instead of raising it. Since scale is important, it is imperative to acknowledge the trickle down effect and how increasing national minimum wage and increased business rates has also increased national insurance and subsequently increased tax for the employee. Yes, we may be getting paid more, but we're also paying more tax, and the ultimate kick in the teeth is that our money is quite literally less valuable. The British pound no longer has the same buying power it did 30 years ago. What's more frustrating is that we're sending that money out of this country with no return. Who thought it was a good idea to pay for an airport in another country? For those who argue and are adamant that we need higher and higher taxes really need to ask themselves where all that money is going. Clearly, a significant proportion disappears to international bodies. So another question needs to be asked is why do we need to involve ourselves with international disputes and conflicts? It is an endless cycle that needs to be broken and dismantled before the United Kingdom becomes another Zimbabwe. As a 33-year-old, I have not come across truly authentic altruism, and whether such a thing exists beggars belief. It needs to be reiterated that just like an episode of Coyote and Roadrunner, the UK is hovering in mid-air, not realizing it has yet to fall. Optimistically, when we climb out, we do things wiser and not regress into mindless barbarism. The point of this rant is to emphasize that a successful United Kingdom really needs its people and businesses to be prosperous and successful themselves. Without it, there is no United Kingdom.